Charity by Charles Lamb. Oh, why your good deeds with such pride do you scan, and why that self-satisfied smile at the shilling you gave to the poor working man, that lifted you over the stile? 'Tis not much, all the bread that can with it be bought will scarce give a morsel to each of his 8 hungry children. Reflection and thought should you more humility teach. Vain glory's a worm which the very best action will taint, and its soundness eat through. But to give one's self airs for a small benefaction is folly and vanity too. The money perhaps by your father or mother was furnished you but with that view. If so, you were only the steward of another, and the praise you usurp is their due. Perhaps every shilling you give in this way is paid back with 2 by your friends. Then the bounty you so ostentatious display has little and low selfish ends. But if every penny you gave were your own, and giving diminished your purse, by a child's slender means think how little is done, and how little for it you're the worse. You eat and you drink. When you rise in the morn you are clothed, you have health and content, and you never have known from the day you were born what hunger or nakedness meant. The most which your bounty from you can subtract is an apple, a sweetmeat, a toy. For so easy a virtue, so trifling an act, you are paid with an innocent joy. Give thy bread to the hungry, the thirsty thy cup. Divide with afflicted thy lot. This can only be practiced by persons grown up, who have possessions which children have not. Having 2 cloaks, give one, said our Lord to the poor. In such bounty as that lies the trial. But a child that gives half of its infantile store has small praise, because small self-denial. A dozen years since in this house what commotion, what bustle, what stir and what joyful ado, every soul in the family at my devotion, when into the world I came 12 years ago. I've been told by my friends, if they do not belie me, my promise was such as no parent would scorn. The wise and the aged who prophesied by me augured nothing but good of me when I was born. But vain are the hopes which are formed by a parent, fallacious the marks which in infancy shine. My frail constitution soon made it apparent, I nourished within me the seeds of decline. On a sick bed I lay, through the flesh my bones started, my grief-wasted frame to a skeleton fell. My physicians foreboding took leave and departed, and they wished me dead now, who wished me well. Life and soul were kept in by a mother's assistance, who struggled with faith and prevailed 'gainst despair. Like an angel she watched o'er the lamp of existence, and never would leave while a glimmer was there. By her care I'm alive now, but what retribution can I for a life twice bestowed thus confer? Were I to be silent, each year's revolution proclaims, each new birthday is owing to her. The chance-rooted tree that by waysides is planted, where no friendly hand will watch o'er its young shoots, has less blame if in autumn, when produce is wanted, enriched by small culture it put forth small fruits. But that which with labour in hot beds is reared, secured by nice art from the dews and the rains, unsound at the root may with justice be feared, if it pay not with interest the tiller's hard pains. Within the precincts of this yard, each in his narrow confines barred, dwells every beast that can be found on Afric or on Indian ground. How different was the life they led in those wild haunts where they were bred, to this tame servitude and fear, enslaved by man, they suffer here. In that uneasy close recess couches a sleeping lioness, the next den holds a bear, the next a wolf by hunger ever vexed, there, fiercer from the keeper's lashes, his teeth the fell hyena gnashes, that creature on whose back abound black spots upon a yellow ground, a panther is, the fairest beast that haunteth in the spacious east. He underneath a fair outside does cruelty and treachery hide. That cat-like beast that to and fro restless as fire does ever go, as if his courage did resent his limbs in such confinement pent, that should their prey in forests take, and make the Indian jungles quake, a tiger is. Observe how sleek and glossy smooth his coat. No streak on satin ever matched the pride of that which marks his furry hide. How strong his muscles! He with ease upon the tallest man could seize, in his large mouth away could bear him, and into 1,000 pieces tear him, yet cabined so securely here, the smallest infant need not fear. That lordly creature next to him a lion is. Survey each limb. Observe the texture of his claws, the massy thickness of those jaws, his mane that sweeps the ground in length like Samson's locks betokening strength. In force and swiftness he excels each beast that in the forest dwells. The savage tribes him king confess throughout the howling wilderness. Woe to the hapless neighborhood when he is pressed by want of food. Of man or child, of bull or horse he makes his prey, such is his force. A waste behind him he creates, whole villages depopulates. Yet here within appointed lines how small a great his rage confines. This place methinks resembleth well the world itself in which we dwell. Perils and snares on every ground like these wild beasts beset us round. But Providence their rage restrains, our heavenly keeper sets them chains. His goodness saveth every hour his darlings from the lion's power. Anna was always full of thought, as if she'd many sorrows known, yet mostly her full heart was fraught with troubles that were not her own. For the whole school to Anna us to tell whatever small misfortunes unto them befell. And being so by all beloved, that all into her bosom poured their dearest secrets, she was moved to pity all, her heart a hoard or storehouse, by this means became for all the sorrows can to girls of tender age befall. Though individually not much distress throughout the school prevailed, yet as she shared it all, 'twas such a weight of woe that her assailed, she lost her colour, loathed her food, and grew so dull, that all their confidence from her withdrew. Released from her daily care, no longer listening to complaint, she seems to breathe a different air, and health once more her cheek does paint. Still Anna loves her friends, but will not hear again their list of grievances which cost so dear. There, Robert, you have killed that fly, and should you 1,000 ages try the life you've taken to supply, you could not do it. You surely must have been devoid of thought and sense, to have destroyed a thing which no way you annoyed. You'll one day rue it. 'Twas but a fly, perhaps you'll say, that's born in April, dies in May, that does but just learn to display his wings 1 minute, and in the next is vanished quite. A bird devours it in his flight, or come a cold blast in the night, there's no breath in it. The bird but seeks his proper food, and Providence, whose power endowed that fly with life, when it thinks good, may justly take it. But you have no excuses for't, a life by nature made so short, less reason is that you for sport should shorter make it. A fly a little thing you rate, but Robert, do not estimate a creature's pain by small or great. The greatest being can have but fibres, nerves, and flesh, and these the smallest ones possess, although their frame and structure less escape our seeing. Lucy, what do you espy in the cast in Jenny's eye that should you to laughter move? I far other feelings prove, when on me she does advance her good-natured countenance, and those eyes which in their way saying much, so much would say, they to me no blemish seem, or as none I them esteem. I their imperfection prize above other clearer eyes. Eyes do not as jewels go by the brightness and the show, but the meanings which surround them, and the sweetness shines around them. Isabel's are black as jet, but she cannot that forget, and the pains she takes to show them robs them of the praise we owe them. Anne's, though blue, affected fall, Kate's are bright, but fierce withal, and the sparklers of her sister from ill humour lose their lustre. Only Jenny's eyes we see, by their very plainness, free from the vices which do smother all the beauties of the other. I keep it, dear papa, within my glove. You do. What sum then usually, my love, is there deposited? I make no doubt some penny pieces you are not without. Oh no, papa, they'd soil my glove and be quite odious things to carry. Oh no, see, this little bit of gold is surely all that I shall want, for I shall only call for a small purchase I shall make, papa, and a mere trifle I'm to buy mamma, just to make out the change, so there's no need to carry penny pieces, sir, indeed. Oh now I know then why a blind man said unto a dog which this blind beggar led, where'er you see some fine young ladies tray, be sure you lead me quite another way. The poor man's friend fair ladies us to be, but now I find no tale of misery will ever from their pockets draw a penny. The blind man did not see they wear not any. After the tempest in the sky, how sweet yon rainbow to the eye. Come, my Matilda, now while some few drops of rain are yet to come, in this honeysuckle bower safely sheltered from the shower, we may count the colours o'er. 7 there are no more, each in each so finely blended, where they begin or where are ended, the finest eye can scarcely see. A fixed thing it seems to be, but while we speak, see how it glides away, and now observe it hides half of its perfect arch, now we scarce any part of it can see. What is colour? If I were a natural philosopher, I would tell you what does make this meteor every colour take, but an unlearned eye may view nature's rare sights, and love them too. Whenever I a rainbow see, each precious tint is dear to me, for every colour find I there, which flowers, which fields, which ladies wear. My favourite green, the grass's hue, and the fine deep violet blue, and the pretty pale bluebell, and the rose I love so well, all the wondrous variations of the tulip, pinks, carnations, this woodbine here both flower and leaf. 'Tis a truth that's past belief, that every flower and every tree, and every living thing we see, every face which we espy, every cheek and every eye, in all their tints, in every shade, are from the rainbow's colours made. A little child, who had desired to go and see the park guns fired, was taken by his maid that way upon the next rejoicing day. Soon as the unexpected stroke upon his tender organs broke, confused and stunned at the report, he to her arms fled for support, and begged to be conveyed at once out of the noise of those great guns, those naughty guns, whose only sound would kill, he said, without a wound. So much of horror and offence the shark had given his infant sense, yet this was he in after days who filled the world with martial praise, when from the English quarterdeck his steady courage swayed the wreck of hostile fleets, disturbed no more by all that vast conflicting roar, that sky and sea did seem to tear, when vessels whole blew up in air, than at the smallest breath that heaves, when zephyr hardly stirs the leaves. Did I hear the church clock a few minutes ago, I was asked, and I answered I hardly did know, but I thought that I heard it strike 3. Said my friend then, the blessings we always possess we know not the want of and prize them the less, the church clock was no new sound to thee. A young woman afflicted with deafness a year by that sound you scarce heard, first perceived she could hear. I was near her, and saw the girl start with such exquisite wonder, such feelings of pride, a happiness almost to terror allied, she showed the sound went to her heart. Why so I will, you noisy bird, this very day I'll advertise you, perhaps some busy ones may prize you. A fine-tongued good parrot as was ever heard, I'll word it thus, set forth all charms about you, and say no family should be without you. Thus far a gentleman addressed a bird, then to his friend, an old procrastinator, sir, I am, do you wonder that I hate her? Though she but 7 words can say, 20 and 20 times a day she interferes with all my dreams, my projects, plans and airy schemes, mocking my foible to my sorrow, I'll advertise this bird tomorrow. To this the bird 7 words did say, why not do it, sir, today? To operas and balls my cousins take me, and fond of plays my new-made friend would make me. In summer season, when the days are fair, in my godmother's coach I take the air. My uncle has a stately pleasure barge, gilded and gay, adorned with wondrous charge. The mast is polished and the sails are fine, the awnings of white silk like silver shine. The seats of crimson satin, where the rowers keep time to music with their painted oars. In this on holidays we oft resort to Richmond, Twickenham, or to Hampton Court. By turns we play, we sing, one baits the hook, another angles. Some more idle look at the small fry that sport beneath the tides, or at the swan that on the surface glides. My married sister says there is no feast equal to sight of foreign bird or beast. With her in search of these I often roam. My kinder parents make me blessed at home. Turd of excursions, visitings, and sights, no joys are pleasing to these home delights. Whene'er I fragrant coffee drink, I on the generous Frenchman think, whose noble perseverance bore the tree to Martinico's shore. While yet her colony was new, her island products but a few, 2 shoots from off a coffee tree he carried with him o'er the sea. Each little tender coffee slip he waters daily in the ship, and as he tends his embryo trees, feels he is raising midst the sea's coffee groves, whose ample shade shall screen the dark Creolian maid. But soon, alas, his darling pleasure in watching this his precious treasure is like to fade, for water fails on board the ship in which he sails. Now all the reservoirs are shut, the crew on short allowance put, so small a drop is each man's share, few leavings you may think there are to water these poor coffee plants. But he supplies their gasping wants, even from his own dry parched lips he spares it for his coffee slips. Water he gives his nurslings first, ere he allays his own deep thirst, lest if he first the water sip he bear too far his eager lip. He sees them droop for want of more. Yet when they reach the destined shore, with pride heroic gardener sees a living sap still in his trees. The islanders his praise resound, coffee plantations rise around, and Martinico loads her ships with produce from those dear-salved slips won. With the apples and the plums little Carolina comes, at the time of the dessert she comes and drops her new last curtsy, graceful curtsy practised o'er in the nursery before. What shall we compare her to? The dessert itself will do. Like preserves she's kept with care, like blanched almonds she is fair, soft as down on peach her hair, and so soft, so smooth is each pretty cheek as that same peach, yet more like in hue to cherries. Then her lips the sweet strawberries, Caroline herself shall try them if they are not like when nigh them. Her bright eyes are black as sloes, but I think we've none of those common fruit here, and her chin from a round point does begin like the small end of a pear. Whiter drapery she does wear than the frost on cake, and sweeter than the cake itself, and neater, though bedecked with emblems fine, is our little Caroline. Why is your mind thus all day long upon your music set, till reason's swallowed in a song or idle canzonet? I grant you, Melisenda, when your instrument was new, I was well pleased to see you then its charms assiduous woo. The rudiments of any art or mastery that we try are only on the learner's part got by hard industry. But you are past your first essays. Whene'er you play, your touch, skilful and light, ensures you praise. all beyond that's too much. Music's sweet uses are to smooth each rough and angry passion, to elevate at once and soothe, a heavenly recreation. But we misconstrue and defeat the end of any good, when what should be our casual treat, we make our constant food. While to th exclusion of the rest, this single art you ply, your nobler studies are suppressed, your books neglected lie. Could you in what you so affect the utmost summit reach, beyond what fondest friends expect or skillfulst masters teach? The skill you learned would not repay the time and pains it cost, youth's precious season thrown away, and reading leisure lost. A benefit to books we owe, music can ne'er dispense, the one does only sound bestow, the other gives us sense. In many a lecture, many a book you all have heard, you all have read, that time is precious. Of its use much has been written, much been said. The accomplishments which gladden life, as music, drawing, dancing, are encroachers on our precious time. Their praise or dispraise I forbear. They should be practised or forborne, as parents wish or friends desire. What rests alone in their own will is all I of the young require. There's not a more productive source of waste of time to the young mind than dress. As it regards our hours, my view of it is now confined. Without some calculation, youth may live to age and never guess that no one study they pursue takes half the time they give to dress. Write in your memorandum book the time you at your toilette spend, then every moment which you pass, talking of dress with a young friend. And ever when your silent thoughts have on this subject been intent, set down as nearly as you can how long on dress your thoughts were bent. If faithfully you should perform this task, 'twould teach you to repair lost hours, by giving unto dress not more of time than its due share. Said Anne to Matilda, I wish that we knew if what we've been reading of fairies be true. Do you think that the poet himself had a sight of the fairies he here does so prettily write of? Oh, what a sweet sight if he really had seen the graceful Titania, the fairyland queen. If I had such dreams I would sleep a whole year. I would not wish to wake while a fairy was near. Now I'll fancy that I in my sleep have been seeing a fine little delicate ladylike being, whose steps and whose motions so light were and airy, I knew at one glance that she must be a fairy. Her eyes they were blue, and her fine curling hair of the lightest of browns, her complexion more fair than I e'er saw a woman's. And then for her height, I verily think that she measured not quite 2 feet, yet so justly proportioned withal, I was almost persuaded to think she was tall. Her voice was the little thin note of a sprite. There, d'ye think I have made out a fairy aright? You'll confess, I believe, I've not done it amiss. Pardon me, said Matilda, I find in all this fine description, you've only your young sister Mary been taking a copy of here for a fairy. Unto a Yorkshire school was sent a negro youth to learn to write, and the first day young Juba went all gazed on him as a rare sight. But soon with altered looks askance they view his sable face and form, when they perceive the scornful glance of the head boy, young Henry Orme. He in the school was first in fame, said he, it does to me appear to be a great disgrace and shame a black should be admitted here. His words were quickly whispered round, and every boy now looks offended. The master saw the change, and found that Orme a mutiny intended. Said he to Orme, this African it seems is not by you approved. I'll find a way, young Englishman, to have this prejudice removed. Nearer acquaintance possibly may make you tolerate his hue, at least 'tis my intent to try what a short month may chance to do. Young Orme and Juba then he led into a room, in which there were for each of the 2 boys a bed, a table and a wicker chair. He locked them in, secured the key that all access to them was stopped. They from without can nothing see, their food is through a skylight dropped. A month in this lone chamber Orme is sentenced during all that time, to view no other face or form than Juba's parched by Afric clime. One word they neither of them spoke the first 3 days of the first week. On the 4th day the ice was broke, Orme was the first that deigned to speak. The dreary silence o'er, both glad to hear of human voice the sound, the Negro and the English lad comfort in mutual converse found. Of ships and seas and foreign coast Juba can speak, for he has been a voyager, and Orme can boast he London's famous town has seen. In eager talk they pass the day, and borrow hours even from the night, so pleasantly time passed away, that they have lost their reckoning quite. And when their master set them free, they thought a week was sure remitted, and thanked him that their liberty had been before the time permitted. Now Orme and Juba are good friends. The school by Orme's example won, contend who most shall make amends for former slights to Afric's son. My father's grandfather lives still, his age is 80 years and 10, he looks a monument of time, the agedest of aged men. Though years lie on him like a load, A happier man you will not see than he, whenever he can get his great-grandchildren on his knee. When we our parents have displeased, he stands between us as a screen. By him our good deeds in the sun, our bad ones in the shade are seen. His love's a line that's long drawn out, yet lasteth firm unto the end. His heart is oak, yet unto us it like the gentlest reed can bend. A fighting soldier he has been, yet by his manners you would guess that he his whole long life had spent in scenes of country quietness. His talk is all of things long past, for modern facts no pleasure yield, of the famed year of 45 of William and Culloden's field. The deeds of this eventful age, which princes from their thrones have hurled, can no more interest wake in him than stories of another world. When I his length of days revolve, how like a strong tree he hath stood, it brings into my mind almost those patriarchs old before the flood. When I the memory repeat of the heroic actions great, which in contempt of pain and death, were done by men who drew their breath in ages past, I find no deed that can in fortitude exceed the noble boy, in Sparta bred, who in the temple ministered. By the sacrifice he stands, the lighted incense in his hands. Through the smoking censer's lid dropped a burning coal, which slid into his sleeve, and passed in between the folds even to the skin. Dire was the pain which then he proved, but not for this his sleeve he marved, or would the scorching ember shake out from the folds, lest it should make any confusion or excite disturbance at the sacred rite. But close he kept the burning coal, till it eat itself a hole in his flesh. The slanders by saw no sign and heard no cry of his pangs had no discerning, till they smelled the flesh a burning. All this he did in noble scorn, and for he was a Spartan born. Young student, who this story readest, and with the same thy thoughts now feedest, thy weaker nerves might thee forbid to do the thing the Spartan did. Thy feebler heart could not sustain such dire extremity of pain. But in this story thou mayst see, what may useful prove to thee. By his example thou wilt find, that to the ingenuous mind shame can greater anguish bring than the body's suffering. That pain is not the worst of ills, not when it the body kills. That in fair religion's cause for thy country or the laws, when occasion due shall offer tease, reproachful not to suffer. If thou shouldst a soldier be, and a wound should trouble thee, if without the soldier's fame thou to chance shouldst owe a maim, do not for a little pain on thy manhood bring a stain, but to keep thy spirits whole, think on the Spartan and the coal. A text of 1818. On a bank with roses shaded, whose sweet scent the violets aided, violets whose breath alone yields but feeble smell or none, sweeter bed Jove ne'er reposed on when his eyes Olympus closed on, while o'erhead 6 slaves did hold canopy of cloth o' gold, and 2 more did music keep, which might Juno lull to sleep Oriana, who was queen to the mighty Tamerlane, that was lord of all the land between Thrace and Samarcand, while the noontide fervour beamed, mused herself to sleep and dreamed. Thus far in magnific strain, a young poet soothed his vein, but he had nor prose nor numbers to express a princess' slumbers. Youthful Richard had strange fancies, was deep versed in old romances, and could talk whole hours upon the great Cam and Prester John. Tell the field in which the Sapphire from the Tartar won a trophy, what he read with such delight of, thought he could as easily write of, but his overyoung invention kept not pace with brave intention. 20 suns did rise and set, and he could no further get, but unable to proceed made a virtue out of need, and his labours wiselier deemed of, did omit what the queen dreamed of. This picture does the story express of Moses in the bulrushes, how livelily the painter's hand by colours makes us understand. Moses that little infant is, this figure is his sister, this fine stately lady is no less a personage than a princess, daughter of Pharaoh, Egypt's king, whom Providence did hither bring this little Hebrew child to save. See how near the perilous wave he lies exposed in the ark, his rushy cradle, his frail bark. Pharaoh, king of Egypt land, in his greatness gave command to his slaves, they should destroy every newborn Hebrew boy. This Moses was an Hebrew's son. When he was born, his birth to none his mother told, to none revealed, but kept her goodly child concealed. 3 months she hid him, then she wrought with bulrushes this ark, and brought him in it to this river's side, carefully looking far and wide to see that no Egyptian eye her ark-hid treasure should espy. Among the river flags she lays the child, near him his sister stays. We may imagine her affright when the king's daughter is in sight. Soon the princess will perceive the ark among the flags, and give command to her attendant maid that its contents shall be displayed. Within the ark the child is found, and now he utters mournful sound. Behold, he weeps as if he were afraid of cruel Egypt's heir. She speaks, she says, "This little one I will protect, though he the son be of an Hebrew." Every word she speaks is by the sister heard, and now observe this is the part the painter chose to show his art. Look at the sister's eager eye, as here she seems advancing nigh. Lowly she bends, says, Shall I go and call a nurse to thee? I know a Hebrew woman lieth near, great lady, shall I bring her here? See, Pharaoh's daughter answers, Go, no more the painter's art can show. He cannot make his figures move. On the light wings of swiftest love the girl will fly to bring the mother to be the nurse, she'll bring no other. To her will Pharaoh's daughter say, Take this child from me away, for wages nurse him. To my home at proper age this child may come. When to our palace he is brought, wise masters shall for him be sought to train him up, befitting one I would protect as my own son. And Moses be a name unto him, because I from the waters drew him. It is not always to the strong victorious battle shall belong. This found Goliath huge and tall, mightiest giant of them all, who in the proud Philistine host defied Israel with boast. With loud voice Goliath said, Here, armed Israel gathered and in array against us set, ye shall alone by me be met, for am not I a Philistine, what strength may be compared to mine? Choose ye a man of greatest might, and if he conquer me in fight, then we will all servants be, King of Israel, unto thee. But if I prove the victor, then shall Saul and all his armed men bend low beneath Philistine yoke. Day by day these words he spoke, singly traversing the ground. But not an Israelite was found to combat man to man with him, who such prodigious force of limb displayed. Like to a weaver's beam the ponderous spear he held did seem. In height 6 cubits he did pass, and he was armed all o'er in brass. Him we will leave a while, and speak of one, the soft down on whose cheek of tender youth the tokens bear. Ruddy he was and very fair. David, the son of Jesse he, small-sized yet beautiful to see. 3 brothers had he in the band of warriors under Saul's command. Himself at home did private keep in Bethlehem's plains his father's sheep. Jesse said to this his son, David, to thy brothers run, where in the camp they now abide, and learn what of them may betide. These presents for their captains take, and of their fair inquiries make. With joy the youth his sire obeyed. David was no whit dismayed when he arrived at the place where he beheld the strength and face of dread Goliath, and could hear the challenge. Of the people near unmoved he asked, What should be done to him who slew that boasting one, whose words such mischiefs did forebode to armies of the living God? The king, they unto David say, Most amply will that man repay, he and his father's house shall be evermore in Israel free. With mighty wealth Saul will endow that man, and he has made a vow, whoever takes Goliath's life shall have Saul's daughter for his wife. His eldest brother who had heard his question was to anger against the youth, for as he thought things out of his young reach he sought. Said he, What moved thee to come here to question warlike men? Say where and in whose care are those few sheep, that in the wilderness you keep? I know thy thoughts, how proud thou art. In the naughtiness of thy heart, hoping a battle thou mayst see, thou comest hither down to me. Then answered Jesse's youngest son in these words, What have I done, is there not cause? Some there which heard and at the manner of his word admired report this to the king. By his command they David bring into his presence. Fearless then, before the king and his chief men, he shows his confident design to combat with the Philistine. Saul with wonder heard the youth and thus addressed him, Of a truth, no power thy untried sinew hath to cope with this great man of Gath. Lowly David bowed his head, and with firm voice the stripling said, Thy servant kept his father's sheep. Rushing from a mountain steep there came a lion and a bear, the firstlings of my flock to tear. Thy servant hath that lion killed, and killed that bear, when from the field 2 young lambs by force they seized. The Lord was mercifully pleased me to deliver from the paw of the fierce bear, and cruel jaw of the strong lion. I shall slay unrighteous Philistine this day, if God deliver him also to me. He ceased. The king said, Go, thy God, the God of Israel, be in the battle still with thee. David departs unarmed, save a staff in hand he chanked to have. Nothing to the fight he took, save 5 smooth stones from out a brook. These in his shepherd's scrip he placked, that was fastened round his waist. With staff and sling alone he meets the armed giant, who him greets with naught but scorn, looking askance on the fair ruddy countenance of his young enemy. Am I a dog that thou camest here to try thy strength upon me with a staff? Goliath said with scornful laugh. Thou camest with sword, with spear, with shield, yet thou to me this day must yield. The Lord of hosts is on my side, whose armies boastful thou'st defied. All nations of the earth shall hear he saveth not with shield and spear. Thus David spake, and nigher went, then choosing from his scrip, he sent out of his slender sling a stone. The giant uttered fearful moan. The stone though small had pierced deep into his forehead, endless sleep giving Goliath, and thus died of Philistines the strength and pride. The text of 18:18. David and his 3 captains bold kept ambush once within a hold. It was in Adullam's cave, nigh which no water they could have, nor spring, nor running brook was near to quench the thirst that parched them there. Then David, king of Israel, straight bethought him of a well which stood beside the city gate at Bethlehem, where before his state of kingly dignity he had oft drunk his fill, a shepherd lad. But now his fierce Philistine foe encamped before it he does know. Yet ne'ertheless with heat oppressed, those 3 bold captains he addressed, and wished that one to him would bring some water from his native spring. His valiant captains instantly to execute his will did fly. The mighty 3 the ranks broke through of armed foes, and water drew for David their beloved king at his own sweet native spring. Back through their armed foes they haste, with the hard-earned treasure graced. But when the good King David found what they had done, he on the ground the water poured. Because, said he, that it was at the jeopardy of your 3 lives this thing ye did, that I should drink it, God forbid.